Hey everybody, welcome back. It's me, Orpheus. Yes, your old pal Orpheus. We're here with another edition of Blade and Sorcery on Orpheus Plays. Hope you're doing well wherever you are today. It's another lovely day for some more lovely murder, yes, which is what you sickos are all here for, I know it. So we're here with survival mode again here in the market. Another good day where the vendors decided not to show up. Apparently they didn't get the memo today. Oh well. Hope you're doing well. Yes, that's right, you. I know that you watch me, and so I hope you're doing well. Yeah, that's right. I'm one of those casters who cares. I'm a person who thinks that people are important, or whatever. You know how I feel about you guys. I love you guys for watching. All right, so our choices today. The axe, the little camp axe, the gladius, and the bigger version, the reverend sword. However, and here's the part where it's like, uh-oh, and here's the twist. Twist! I'm going to be using this. This is an ore. I got this from a dungeon run a while back. I didn't remember that I kept it. So, here we go. We're going to smash our way through some NPCs with an ore. I mean, hell, why not, right? So let's take our weapon, we'll throw it into the pit. Into the pit. We'll call that our Brad pit. How about that? We'll name our pit Brad. We'll put everyone down in there. All right, so for today, I said that I was going to eventually do an episode where I talk about the music that I hear all the time. Let me give you a brief refresher. Oop, let's do our slow motion first kill. If I can even kill this guy with the ore. Let's see. Oh, I did. Nice. All right. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about the music that I hear all the time. And yeah, quick recap. When I was 8 years old, I was in an accident where I hit my head on the side of a brick building. It was during recess. And there was I was running around the corner of a building, and it was like, you know, these things stick out, right? These little corners of the bricks. Well, I hit that with my temple. Really hard. Open head wound. It was pretty bad. I immediately went unconscious for about a half an hour. I woke up in the hospital, and I was strapped into one of those papoose things, right? It's the Velcro straps that hold you onto a wooden board. Mostly it's for kids, so they don't move around when they're getting stitches or whatever. They didn't put me out because it was so close to my brain. They didn't want, it's a concussion. The worst thing you can do with a concussion. This thing is like full on going in his neck, and all right, there we go. So for a concussion, they don't want you going out, like sleeping or anything. So they were sewing me up, and it was, really bright and loud. That's all I really remember. Lots of bright lights, a whole bunch of people over me doing work. I needed a lot of stitches. They had to repair their way up out of the wound and stitch it up as they went along. I still have a nerve damage squint on one side. When I smile, it's a lot more apparent. Bro, this thing is like, I'm just basically bludgeoning him. It's not even like the club that he's got. It's just like, why? Why, man? Why? Anyway. So I still have that squint when I smile. It's really small, but it's been with me since I was 8. So where does the music come in? Okay, well, my parents never got me tested in any other fashion. No neurological tests after that. No, scans of my brain to see if anything was damaged or missing or whatever. And so I gradually, over, looking back, I have to look back at this because in context, it really didn't seem weird at all. Oh, give me back my ore, bro. You are not going to steal that. Dude, this is my whole thing. I am Ore Man. So it was really gradual, as I remember. It took a couple of months But around that same time, I had developed this weird obsession with music. It wasn't because I was hearing it necessarily. It was because I just suddenly, I wanted to listen to music all the time. And I guess that was because it was starting to creep into my head, right? Okay. So at that exact time, my parents decided I was going to start doing piano lessons, and then I got into the opera, and I started doing productions with our local opera troupe. Oh, we won. Good. Yes, good, very good. And to the Brad. Hear it whooshing all the way down there. So I was surrounded by music at that point in my life. And so it all seemed completely normal to me. Never at any point along the way did it seem abnormal. And it was just because I had this obsession with music. I did all sorts of things. I sang, I danced, I would do plays and musicals and everything. I was in the bands. I played trumpet and a little bit of guitar. Man. So music was my whole life back then. So, again, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, right? When you grow up with something that, like, since you were a young kid and you don't have any context for it being weird, it just seems normal, right? And that can be almost anything, from abuse to what I have to deal, the music. It just seems normal until you get some context and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not right. Doesn't everyone, isn't that something that everybody lives with? And then you find out gradually, no, no, other people don't live with that. That's not normal. All right. So I guess this is a good time to talk about how I found out. And this is going to be a little bit of a mental health awareness sort of thing. This was an event in my life that really impacted me. I had a best friend in college. That was a good shot, dude. You should be nominated for something, but unfortunately, you're in the arena with me, which means you did. Anyway, so my best friend in college, we were very close, ended up taking his own life, and it affected me really, really a lot. It was something that kind of crushed my spirit at the time, and I was dealing with bipolar disorder and a whole bunch of other things, and so I started considering self-harm. And instead of, dude, what, into the Brad with you, I started considering that, and rather than risk, hurting myself or hurting someone else, I decided that I was going to go and check myself into a psychiatric treatment center. Now, this is something, if you shouldn't feel any stigma against this. If you or someone that you know has need to go to one of those places, they are not the stereotype that you see in the movies, all right, or in TV. They're not full of getting zapped and shot up with Thorazine and people running around drooling and everything. That's not really what it's for, all right? These facilities are for helping people during this exact scenario that I'm telling you about. If you're not feeling safe, you can go into these places and they'll keep an eye. Whoa! They'll keep an eye on you for a while. They'll put you on some medication that will really help you get past whatever hump that is. And it's not the worst experience. Honestly, the worst thing about it was that I couldn't go anywhere, right? But I knew what I was in for. I checked myself in. So one of the things that they do when you go in is they do evaluations to start. They ask you some questions about what's going on. Hold on. Leg sweep. Or at least ankle break that killed her. All right. Well, it says medieval times. You got to scratch your dead. So they'll do an evaluation, ask you some questions. They'll do some lab work on you. Again, just basic stuff. And then they'll consider a medication regimen for you, where they will put you on some meds to calm you down. There are antipsychotics. And that, I know, it sounds bad. Again, these are psychiatric terms that our society has turned into these negatives. So when I say antipsychotic medication, you automatically think, oh, this is stuff that Jeffrey Dahmer was on when he was in prison. No. I mean, yes. Yes, they probably had them on that, but what it does is it reduces a lot of the panic and the urges to do strange and harmful things to yourself. That's one of the things that it can do. And so they'll put you on pretty, not like, dangerously strong or anything, but wow. This distraction of beating people up while I do this is really helping me actually remember all this. It's very weird. But, so they'll put you on these antipsychotics that are mildly strong, enough to, intervene in those self-harm thoughts, right? If you're feeling unsafe. It's enough to intervene. It's enough to kind of calm those down. Well, as the name might suggest, antipsychotics also take care of psychosis. And psychosis can be really anything. Whether you think you're Napoleon, all the way to hearing voices, to thinking the cat is talking to you. Although, we all talk to our dogs and cats like they're people. Is it really that strange that once in a while they'll look up and go, yeah, ours does. Just kidding. Maybe I'm not. So that's half the fun of being here. You don't know. So I was on these antipsychotics right away. And it usually takes about 3 days for them to kick in. And so you're usually there from 7 to 10 days in the facility. And about 3 days to get those meds to kick in. In the meantime, they just kind of keep an eye on you. They try to keep you comfortable. They'll talk to you. There's group therapy sessions and stuff. Get up, I want to smack you against the wall. So yeah, they'll keep you calm, keep you feeling safe. There's TV, and obviously you won't be given access to internet and your cell phone and stuff, because that's a lot of the times a source of stress for some people. Another round over. And so they'll just keep an eye on you, and then 3 days in, they know the medication's working, and they'll do another evaluation. Well, so I'm there a few days, and I wake up on the 4th day. And I'm in this room, this little, it's like a dorm room, right? It's like a really sparse dorm room, and nothing in it, right? It just looks like you just moved in and don't have any money. So I wake up, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And I sit up in bed, and I'm like, I'm supposed to feel better today. That's what they told me, right? And I feel really, really, I feel really, really uncomfortable. I don't understand what's going on. And I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, what is it? Is there a fan or a heater or something going on that's making me feel weird? Or I'm checking my pulse. I'm no, I'm fine. All right. So I go, I get dressed. And again, it's everything's taking longer. I feel sluggish. I don't, I just feel off, right? Did he accidentally stab himself? He's just openly bleeding. Ugh. So, yeah, I get dressed. I go out into the common room, and I pass by the common room. At that point in my life, I smoked, so I was on my way out for a cigarette. Don't smoke, kids. Kids, smoking is bad. Don't ever do it. But so I'm on my way out for a smoke, and I pass by the room where the TV is in the commons area. And it was, I think they had MTV on or something. I don't know. It was some music. It was some music channel, and there was a song playing as I was walking by. And I heard it, I don't remember what it was. No, hell no. But, I heard this song as I'm walking by, and I keep walking on my way to have the cigarette, and I'm like, wait a minute. There's no music anymore. What? And then I start to slowly realize, I'm like, there's no noise. I don't hear anything. And it felt so incredible. It was like, you'd think that, it's liberating. There's no more noise. No, part of what happens with having antipsychotics for people that can cause some issues is those voices, that music, the sounds and things that you might hear from the psychosis. They're comforting in a way, right? They're always there with you. And it's like having a roommate that you hate, but you get used to talking to and hanging out with, right? I guess that's not the best analogy, but there, we'll put him out of his misery. You get used to it, and especially for me, music being such a huge thing, suddenly everything was silent. And I heard nothing except for what I was listening to at the time. And then I'd walk away and it was just nothing. And it felt so lonely, so out of place. I didn't know what I was doing like most of the time. Because what this is it's like a walking soundtrack for me. Everywhere I go, I hear some sort of music. And if I've heard some catchy tune or something like, for instance, right before I started, and this is what's going through my head right now, little insight, the theme for Beat Saber, like the menu music, that right, that thing, that's going through my head right now, because it was something that I heard, and it's kind of, he fell on his own sword, right in the balls, too. Oh, man, if you're gonna die, spread your arms out, dude. But, yeah, so that's what's going through my head right now, because there's no music actively around, right? Sometimes I'll play this game with some music in the background. It helps, distract me a little bit. Today I didn't want to do that because I want to give you that example. That's what's going through my head. And it's just on repeat, just going. And so when I got out of the psychiatric hospital, the next 6 days was just horrible. I was alone. Like the only sound, the loudest thing that you can hear is when you're by yourself somewhere that's silent, right? That sound, it's like a little bit of your heartbeat, and it's a little bit of just the stillness, like you feel it, right? You feel it crushing in on you. And it was just that for 6 more days. I didn't know what was going on. And I had to fake it. They're like, yeah, do you feel better? I'm like, yeah, well, let me the fuck out of here, right? So I get out, and I stop taking the meds. And it slowly, over 2 weeks, started to filter back in. And again, it was like I had suddenly discovered that, wait a minute, since I was a kid, I've been hearing music literally all the time, unless I was actively singing or listening to some song. Oh, by the way, if a song is not catchy enough or too slow, sometimes the one that's in my head will overpower it. Here are some examples of the songs, and I call these my main songs, right? They're ones that, if I'm particularly stressed out, these are the ones that will pop into my head. All right. So we've got Bop. I know, it sucks. That one got stuck in my head at a DJ gig that I did years ago. The people wanted to hear it 5 or 6 times. It was, I think it was a middle school party or something like that, and they wanted to hear it 6 times. I'd never heard the song before. Well, now I hear it the rest of my life. Uncle Crackers. Follow Me. Everything is all right. Yeah, that song. 1 Week by the Bare Naked Ladies is one that is going through my head all the time. Now, what I usually do, how do I deal with it? I am not on antipsychotics, right? I've been to a therapist. I have medications for other things, like PTSD, anxiety, bipolar disorder. But she said, do you want an antipsychotic for the music? I'm like, absolutely not. I cannot function without this music. But, okay, so it kind of works. Let me give you an odd example. When you hear about the condition Tourette's syndrome is this control impulse disorder. And and you've probably, the most familiar you probably are with Tourette's is, bro, you are messing up my storytelling. The thing that you'd be most familiar with Tourette's is people that would be like, and so my name is Bob. Shit, fuck, bam, you know, right? The ones that swear uncontrollably. And a lot of them actually do have sort of a sense of humor about it. But that's not by any means the most common form of Tourette's. That's a very, very rare version of Tourette's. And the more common version is tics, like movements or little sounds. I knew he keeps zapping himself with his electros axe. I had a friend in high school. She had Tourette's, and her little tic was she would just make the sound once in a while, and she couldn't control it. So she'd be like writing a paper and like right, couldn't control it, just kind of came out. Well, my condition with the music is kind of like Tourette's, because if you ask someone that has it, they'll tell you that sometimes it is proportionate, the inverse proportion of trying to control it. So let's say you're somewhere like church or at a graduation, right? Or at the wedding ceremony itself, or you get it, like in a test, right? Or taking the SAT or whatever. The more you're supposed to, and once you start thinking about it, you're on this endless roller coaster thinking about it. And it's going, oh, well, you know, I haven't had the urge to make a sound in a while, or for my facial tic or the movement, right? For me, it's like I can kind of focus on music or something. I have a replacement song that I use. The replacement song is usually the Blue Danube waltz. So that's the one that I will force myself, and I have to like essentially scream it to myself in my head. Fortunately, I have somewhat of an audiographic memory, so I remember a lot of songs very well. But I'll force that into my head. Well, okay, so back to the Tourette's thing. If you're in church or at a funeral or something, the more you think about it, the harder it gets for you to suppress it. So eventually, it's uncontrollable. The outburst just comes. And sometimes it's worse than ever at that point. Well, for me, it's inappropriate songs at inappropriate times. And this has actually happened to me, this specific example. I'm at a funeral for a family friend. I did not know. I had no idea who this person was. I'd never met them. Oh, he's like a jack-in-the-box. I'd never met the person. I never knew anything. I haven't even heard their name. It was just like get dragged along for it to show it was a business, like, respect thing. Okay. So they're sitting there and they're doing the eulogy and everything. And there I am. I start thinking, and I had, I was listening to the music in the place, the funeral parlor. And you know how that music is. It's all ethereal and just kind of creepy, but I was focusing on it. I was like, this is not a time that I want to start thinking about music. And suddenly, I Like Big Butts is going on in my head, and it's like someone is blasting it at me with a horn, like a PA horn, right? A megaphone. And oh my god, it was so difficult for me to like not start cracking up. It was bad. So it's like, and now we remember John Smith. I like big butts. I'm like, oh god, no, stop. Well, okay, so how did I... Look, you're probably saying to yourself, well, I get songs stuck in my head all the time. All right. I envy you when you say that, because sometimes I wish it was just a song stuck in my head. I go to sleep with a song in my head. I wake up and I have a song in my head. When I do have the rare occasion that I dream, because I'm on medication that keeps me from dreaming. I've got pretty bad PTSD. We'll address that in a more serious episode coming up. But when I dream, the rare occasion I dream, there's music in my head in my dream. There's always music playing in my dreams. It's different than an earworm. So you hear a catchy song or a jingle, and it gets stuck in your head. And I've talked about this in another video. It was stuck in my head all day or stuck in my head all week. No, I mean, sort of, right? You kept thinking about it occasionally, when you had nothing else to think about. For me, it would literally be stuck in my head for a week. Like, I'd be sitting at dinner with my wife, and it's playing. So the one that I was talking about in another video, I had to hear it so that I could kind of refresh because sometimes I get just phrases of the song that go through my head. So I have to kind of listen to it to refresh it and kind of change the phrase. Does that make sense? I don't know. Make it more realistic or go to a better part of the song for me or whatever. Well, the song that I wanted to hear the other day was Biddy Body Biddy Boo, right? It's the song from Super Troopers that the Porsche is playing as it screams by. Go watch the scene if you don't know it. It's an amazing scene. Anyway, that song was stuck in my head for a few days, quite literally. And I had to hear it, and I go, hey, I talked to my home assistant. I'm like, hey, man, I'm like, play Biddy Body Biddy Boo. And my wife looks at me like, did you have a stroke? What's happening? So yeah, that's kind of how that works. If you have any questions about it, let me know in the comments. Send me a message. I will be glad to answer anything, and I'll do a follow-up video if you want, addressing those questions. It's an odd sort of disorder to have. Although it is said that people like Beethoven had music in their head all the time too. And part of what happened with him is that he just had to get it out, so he wrote it down. I haven't written any concertos or symphonies, but hey, I do some pretty good content here on YouTube. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Oh, one other thing. Yes, the car accident 10 years after my initial head injury did make it much worse. But that was the one that also changed my personality a lot and resulted in some of these dumb stories that you hear. So, anyway, I'm Orpheus, here on Orpheus Plays with another edition of Blade and Sorcery with my friend Buckethead here. And we'll see you next time. All righty. Bye.